What's going on, Nerd Army, and welcome to the next episode of Exploring Comics. Today we are going to break down one of the coolest characters that everyone remembers from the early 2000s, and that is going to be Static Shock. Now this guy is a crazy character and has a pretty cool history, so let's sit back, relax, and get shocked. Static Shock, or as he was originally named, Static, was created by writers Dwayne McDuffie and Robert L. Washington III, and artist John Paul Leon, and first appeared in Static #1 in 1993. His first series was published in Milestone Comics, which was distributed by DC Comics. Milestone kept the character going till 1997 when Milestone Comics ultimately shut down. Static was saved from fading out, due mostly to his WB animated show Static Shock. This brought this character to view to many people that would have never seen him. The series was a hit on Kids WB and ran for 4 seasons from 2000 to 2004. Static Shock's animated series took place in the DC animated universe, as well as shows like Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Justice League Unlimited, and Superman the Animated Series. In 2008 at San Diego Comic-Con, it was actually announced that the Dakota universe would be joining the mainstream DC universe, which means the Milestone universe would be taken into DC. That included a lot of great characters such as Static, Icon, Hardware, and many, many more. This led Static to join the Teen Titans eventually and guest spot on Young Justice, the TV series. Static has made his way across lots of different mediums, but let's talk about his comic book origin. Virgil Hawkins was a self-proclaimed geek and attended Ernest Hemingway High School. He loves comic books and role-playing games. He was the average kid, but often bullied by rival Francis Stone. Seeing the beating happen, his buddy Larry Wade asks him to meet him at Paris Island, a very dangerous part of Dakota. When Virgil arrives, he is actually handed a gun by his young friend, and he wants him to go kill Francis, take his revenge for the guy that's been bullying him around. Ultimately, Virgil could not do it. He tossed the gun into the river. After he gets rid of the gun, he finds himself caught between rival gangs. The cops arrived at the gang war and began to shoot tear gas into the fight, which they thought was laced with a harmless radioactive marker. That way they could track the criminals that get away. But they were wrong. The cops had no idea that their experimental tear gas was actually spiked a second time with a mutagen called Q-juice. Instead of it being tear gas making it easier to find these gang members, it started killing them. Only about 10% of them, exactly 50, survived out of the 500 that originally were there. But the survivors began to mutate in many different ways. Virgil was one of those survivors. Before he could escape, he was spotted by a police drone, and Virgil, out of fear, throws his hands up in the air, releasing his new electromagnetic power, destroying the police drone. He escapes and discovers that he himself has an odd effect around electronic devices that are around his area, but he does learn to control it eventually and starts experimenting on what else he can possibly do. He discovers that he can use magnetics to levitate himself, using a metal disc for him to fly on. Virgil decides he is going to use his power for good, mainly due to the vicious criminals and dangerous cops that are plaguing this city. He then designs himself a costume and took the name Static. As Static, he took on all forms of street-level crime, from dangerous drug dealers to taking down local crack houses. But then Static heard that his old bully Francis had survived the Big Bang. He was alive and he had become the villain named Hot Streak, with flame-style powers. Static continued to protect the city from the gang babies, which were the gang members that were actually infected by Q-juice. One of the great things about Static's comics, they were always open to very complex themes that you wouldn't see on most comic stands, such as gang violence, domestic violence, drugs, which really made for some amazing stories. Needless to say, this series had a very mature theme at times. Static was again brought back in 2011's DC New 52 reboot. The reboot showed Static facing a bunch of new villains, such as Piranha and Viral, and the series only lasted 8 issues, unfortunately. But Static actually did join the Teen Titans later on in the series. Static can manipulate, generate, and channel electromagnetic energy, and then he can use it to fire extremely powerful blasts of electricity from his hands. He can also generate an electromagnetic shield that can block any type of bullets, lasers, or many other projectile weapons. He also uses a metal disc that he designed that he can also double as a weapon, but that's actually what he travels on when he flies. All in all, he is an amazing character with an amazing power set. Guys, like always, I'm going to break down and give you some awesome reading recommendations to check out for this amazing character. Static Shock number 1, Static Shock Rebirth of Cool, Static Shock Supercharged, Terror Titans 1 through 6, and Teen Titans number 79. So guys, as you can see, Static Shock wasn't always with DC Comics, but he did have a nice bringing up, and just the character is just so well developed, and the series is well known for being able to take a look at some of the harder issues in comics. So guys, let me know what you guys thought about this history of, and what do you guys think about the character Static. Let me know down in the comments down below, guys. Make sure you guys hit that like, thumbs up button on this video if you enjoyed yourself, and I hope you guys did. And if you learned something, hit it as well. So I want to know who you guys want to see next. Let me know who you would like to see me do the next history of video on right here on Exploring Comics. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time right here on Nerds Rise for another episode of Exploring Comics. Peace out, guys.
If you liked the video you just saw, make sure you rate it with that big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe so you can check out all the other nerdy videos we have just like this one. Also, check out my Patreon account and become a patron if you'd like for access to exclusive content.